The next step in this project is to use the wallet ID that we just got back from MetaMask and pass that to the OpenSea API to get the list of collections that are available in this wallet. And then we'll use that list of connections to create rooms that we can have as our private chat rooms. So we'll start by taking a look at the OpenSea API. I'll put the link to this API with the tutorial notes, but you can see, there are a number of calls that we can make to this API, and we're going to start by working with retrieving collections. So we can see that retrieving collections is a simple GET call. There's very few parameters to look at here. There's the asset owner, and this is where we'll put in the wallet ID. And there's an offset and a limit to be used for pagination. The only thing we'll be using is the asset owner, really. So the nice thing about the OpenSea API is that you can test it right here in the docs. So if I go back to our sample here, I can just copy my wallet address and I can paste that in here and hit this try it button, and it'll make an API call, and I can see the response and see what the data structure looks like. So that makes it very easy when building and testing with this API, because I can see exactly what results I'm going to get. So let's get into Bildr and start working on this API call. So the trigger for this API call is going to be a successful connection to MetaMask. So after in our MetaMask success flow, after we've connected and we've given the message that says we're connected, and now we're showing the rooms list, this is where we'll want to add the API call to MetaMask. And so the first thing I'm going to do is add a new action, and we're going to type API, and we're going to use this first action here, API call. So the method we're going to leave as a GET, because we saw in the API docs that this is a GET call. Now we need to put in the URL. So we'll go back to the docs, grab this URL, copy it, and paste it in. The next thing is the parameters. And as I mentioned, for this, we really only need the one parameter, which is asset owner. So we're going to copy the asset owner, use that as our name. And then the value is going to be from a variable, and it's on this current page, and it's our MetaMask wallet ID. So we'll pass that as the value for this parameter in the API. And then we need to look at how we want to handle the response. So we have a couple options here. Can save it as a variable, set it into an element. Both work, they just do different things. So for this example, I'm going to save the response into an element, and that element is going to be our grid, which is on this page. So I'll set the grid list. Now, the nice thing about the way Bildr works is it's going to look at the results of this API call, which in this case, it's an array of objects, and each object in this array is one of the collections that are in the wallet. So Bildr notices that this is an API, that this is a array, and will then assign each object to each row in the grid list. So I don't have to worry about that part of it. I can now just go to my grid list, or grid row, I should say, and I'll be able to access these values that are at the top of each object. So for each collection, there's an image, there's a name, there's Discord URL if it's available for that collection, a banner image. I can access all of those from my row just by using this key because Bildr is passing those to each row in our grid. So to do that, we want to have a row page for each room, and we have that from the last lesson. We created that already. This is our room row, and that's where we'll pass that data. We also have a status code here, variable name for our status code. I'll just leave that as the default API status code. And then we have a flow that we can run on success or failure. And you can use this to show a success message or to say, there was an error in making this API call. In our case, I'm going to create a simple success and error flow, just like we did for MetaMask, and then we can use those for what we want. So on our main page, let's create a couple new flows. We'll call this OpenSea success. Actually, I want to make this more descriptive. OpenSea collections success. And I'll create that flow, and one more OpenSea collections error. And before I forget, let's connect those to our API call action. So on success, it's on our current page, OpenSea collections success. And on error, we will use OpenSea collections error. So now I have those flows set up. I can put different actions in them. And I can show like a spinning wheel if I want, or as I mentioned, a message that shows. In our case, I'm just going to start by loading the data on success. We'll be able to see that there's data loaded, and if there's an error, we can handle that path later. But we'll keep it simple for now. So that's the end of setting up this API call. Now we just need to connect our room to it. So, or I should say we need to connect the collection name to the room. So let's go into our room row, and we have this element here for room name. And to connect this to our API data, I'm going to go to the data tab, and I'm going to say from variable. And again, any of these key value pairs that are at the top level of the array, OpenSea is being weird here. Any of these key value pairs that are at the top level of this array, I can just access straight in Bildr. And so for the room name, I just want to use the name object, which is returned in the OpenSea response. So now, once we have a successful connection, it should load our grid list and load a row for each collection name. Let's go back to our preview site and let's test that out. I'm going to refresh. So we get our default screen here, which has our Connect to MetaMask button. Since I've already connected in the last lesson, it's not going to ask me to authorize every step. So when I hit connect, since I'm still connected, it'll just connect right away. And we see here it's now connected. We've got our button that shows our wallet address, and then we see a couple of seconds later our chat room's loaded. Now this is where you'll want to use that success flow, because that couple of seconds that it was loading, it looked like nothing was happening. And so we can change that really easily to say loading. So let's do that real quick. So for this, what I want to do is just use, I want to use this message here. So instead of saying you have access to any of these rooms below and there's just an empty list, this is going to say, waiting on OpenSea or loading your collections from OpenSea, something like that. And then once all of these rooms load, then I can display this message. So to do that, let's go back into our home page. And this element that says you have access to any of these rooms. I'm going to copy this because I'm going to reuse this message. But the default is just going to say, let me use the little boat emoji and say loading collections from OpenSea, ... So that'll be the default message. That'll be the first thing that pops up. And then in our OpenSea collections success flow, I'm going to add a action for element set value that just changes that message to our finished instructions that we want to show. So we'll see the loading message until we have a success, and then we'll see that response. So let's test that out. I'm going to refresh. I'm going to hit connect to MetaMask. And you saw there, it was really quick this time, but we had a quick loading message and it loaded so fast that it was only there for a split second. And now we have our list of rooms. So this is good. We have a list now, and what we want to do is have a room, actual chat room, a private page that you can get to for each of these collections and that you can chat through. So just to review where we are in our process, let's go back to our list here. So now we've completed the use OpenSea API to get collections, and we want to create a private room for each, and we'll do that in the next video in just a second.